Okay, great. Well, welcome to this customer webinar for May. We're really enjoying doing these every month now and getting into a nice cadence, um, getting to connect with you guys and have some just kind of keep you up to date on what we're working on. We've got all kinds of stuff going on, and it's fun for us to talk about and hear your reactions. And we always come away from these too with some great suggestions from you guys. So I really appreciate that. Um, My name is Don Campbell, CEO and co-founder of GetFiveStars. We've also got Thomas and Mike here on the webinar, ready to answer questions. And I'm sure you've met some of our other team before too, I hope. Um, but anyway, we're having a lot of fun, and I hope that you guys are, basically the idea behind the webinar here is just to connect with everybody every month and make sure you know who we are and what we're doing and what we're up to, and make sure that we hear from you too. So at any time along the way, feel free to just ask a question in the chat or in the questions section in the GoToWebinar control panel. Ask away and we will answer those as we go. So you don't have to save them up to the end or anything like that. Just keep them coming in. And we'll make sure to get your questions answered as we go along. And then if you got stuff at the end, we'll save a little time at the end as well. So in last month's webinar, I always like to do a quick little review here. In last month's webinar, we covered a few things. We talked about some new features. We talked about the Net Promoter Score and what it means, and how businesses that have a higher Net Promoter Score tend to do better in terms of customer referrals and online reviews. And then we also had shared some tips that we found about email open rates and specifically on mobile devices. A couple of the features that we covered, we talked about the new visual email template editor. We also have a visual editor for the feedback response pages too, and these were super, and we had a lot of great feedback on these. People really liked them, and so it was an exciting change for us to get these out there. I feel like everyone who's been using it said, oh yeah, this is so much better. I have more control over the email. I can see exactly what it's going to look like before it goes out. So we talked about that. We also talked about our captive Wi-Fi portal, and many of you are beta testing that right now. We're getting some really good feedback initially on this. It's just a little device that if a business has a waiting room, or maybe at a restaurant or something, can drop this in, get a really good and offer free Wi-Fi to customers, and then capture their email address and automatically can go into GetFiveStars. So trying once again to make it as easy as possible to get those emails from your customers so we can send out the feedback requests. So we talked about those and some other features as well. Just a quick review. Now this time I have some more features we've been working on that I wanted to share with you. We've got a bunch of new stuff actually, and I wanted to show those to you, get your reaction to it. Some of it's out there in production just over the last couple of days. There are a couple features that are imminent, will be out there over the next week. And then some pro tips on your email response funnel, and then answer any of your questions and get your feedback like we always like to do. All right, so let's talk about some of these new features. The first feature I want to talk about is something that we're calling direct response to customer, but what we're doing is allowing you to easily respond to feedback requests. So if somebody leaves you a feedback request, positive or negative, you can choose, you have some more options on how you respond to that now. And this is based on a little bit of research that Mike Blumenthal did about, hey, he asked, I think it was about 3,300 plus, he ran a survey and talked to a lot of business, like basically customers, and said, hey, if you leave a review, should a business owner respond to it, right? And what do you think, and why not? And so it was interesting, the responses we got back. Some of them said no, but if you look at the way it adds up here, if you've got the 88 responses were yes, another 34 were yes if negative, and another 27 were it depends. So it wasn't necessarily a super clear response, but it was interesting to see the data of why they said. There were a number of there's a bit of a word cloud. No need to respond unless I have a specific complaint. Yes, a lot of people said yes. Not normally, unless it was really bad or really good, or only if they feel like it. So a lot of different interesting sort of responses here, but what the conclusions, Mike was kind of basically had a hypothesis about this, and he wanted to see what the actual customers would say, and he basically said, his really conclusion from all this was like, if you have a negative review, you should respond, uh, or a positive review if you can add some context to the situation. A lot of times, the review text is terse. There's not a lot to it, or maybe it's a little confusing. So it's good if you can ever add context to the response. That's a good way. You should probably do it, whether it's positive or negative. Um, if every review that you should probably don't need to have don't shouldn't have to respond to every single review unless there's something in the community where that becomes a norm. But the big takeaway to this for us was that a lot of people said yes, you should respond, because some of the comments were, hey, I took some time to do this. They should take some time as well. So I think from our perspective, it's a good idea to respond to reviews or to feedback requests. And what we're going to talk about in a minute is not just online reviews, but feedback requests. And by the way, here's the article if you want to read it. I'll ask Mike or Thomas to drop this URL into the chat window in case you want to read the whole article. It's worth reading. Really good article about. He goes into some more depth on these responses and what people said. But what we've done as a new feature in GetFiveStars is we're going to be turning this on shortly. We're basically in testing for this right now, and we're calling it direct response. And this allows you, if you receive a feedback request alert. So in this email, in this case, you're the business owner, somebody left you feedback, right? Now you've got an option to respond to that feedback either privately or publicly. So in this case, this is not an online review. This is feedback that was captured in our system. As you know, our system tries to be proactive around asking for that feedback even before they go leave the online review and saying, hey, how was your, would you recommend us? How was your experience with us? And so basically you're going to get this email alert when somebody leaves you feedback and allows you to respond publicly or privately. Now, if you click on one of those buttons, in this case I clicked on let me back up, I clicked on the respond privately button, and it takes me into the customer record for this where I can see the feedback and allows me to send a private message. And you can see over on the right, this sort of log of messages will be tracked in our system. So you can kind of see that context as it goes through. And this is a private response to the customer. So this allows me, maybe there was a problem of some kind, or maybe it was a friend and I just didn't want to carry on this big long conversation in the, I'll show you where these show up later, but they'll show up in your testimonials widget if they're public. But in this case, they're private. They're not going to show up on your testimonials widget. And it allows you to have this conversation. And now if I were to click on the public one, there's a section in here for public comment. And in this case, last month we added the ability for you to add your title. You can see that here. So it could be manager or owner or whatever the business person is who's responding. And then the message. And then this is going to go as part of the testimonials widget, the feedback that everyone sees. And again, over on the right, we track this and we allow you to keep track of these conversations. And then we also have a button here that says ask customer for a rating revision. So in this case, maybe somebody left you some feedback. You went back and helped them resolve the issue. We've got all that information tracked in the system. And then you can send basically this email saying, hey, we'd like to, would you please leave us some different feedback and change your rating? Because maybe now you've resolved the issue for them and they're happy to leave you a positive review. So that's basically how the flow works. And when you respond, the customer will get an email saying whether it was a private. You can see in the subject here, it says Hawaii Cargo, which is the business, privately commented on your feedback. And then here's where they will get that content. So whenever you respond, they get an email. So they know that you responded to them. Now, if you were using public response, then in your feedback, in your testimonials widget on your website or wherever you have that placed, you'll see this content. So you'll see it right here. Here's the original feedback, and then here's the response, and you can see the title of the business owner as well. So Paul was saying, yes, I agree, but I have a hard time persuading my clients to do it. Yeah, I know. I think it's just our chance to educate them, let them know that it's important to their customers to respond to these things. Um, but I hear you. Not all of them get it. I think some of the data can help. Some of this data from Mike's research can help people kind of get I think just even sharing that with the business owner helps them get a little bit of an insight into what's going on in the customer's mind. And once they have that, they might be more willing to do those responses. Fred is asking, cool, direct private versus public response feature. When does this come on? We have it testing right now. And I'm going to say it's probably going to be in the next 2 weeks. So it's imminent. It's going to be pretty soon. Julian says, we drive our customers to respond to anything that's less than 7. Otherwise, we just publish. Yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine. I mean, I think the important thing is, hey, we've got an opportunity now for these people, especially in the case where they're passive, right? Or they're detractors. We've got a chance to respond privately, fix it, and ask for revision on the rating, which is important. So good. I'm glad to hear you guys. It sounds like from a lot of the comments I'm seeing, and I know just from requests you guys have had in the past that this is an important feature. So great. So that's a big one. We've been working on for a while and testing, almost ready to go. The next feature I want to talk about is another one that we've had a lot of requests for, and that's the third email follow-up. I think Mike Blumenthal has been asking me for this for a long time, just based on a lot of his testing, and then obviously a lot of customers too. Let me explain what this is. So you're going to start to see once this rolls live, again, we're in testing, so it's very close to going live. This is the email template screen, which looks a little different now. Basically, we've got more emails in here, and what we want to do is have these emails sort of a collapsible section. So you can see how it works now is here's the original feedback request email and a little description. This is the email that goes out to your customers requesting feedback about your business. The first reminder email, this is if they don't respond. We're adding the ability for a second reminder email. So this is based on, again, some research that Mike did, where he found that in the first wave of feedback requests, so you send out your feedback requests to your customers, and then if they don't respond in 3 days, we'll send out a reminder, right? What he did is he waited another 10 days to 2 weeks, and he sent out a third one. And he found that the response that he got from that third one was just as big as the original send that went out. So it was a huge opportunity to go out. And of course, this only goes out to people who haven't responded. But that third email made a big difference in terms of the responses that they got back. So we're adding this into the product now. So we're making it easier for you to see these emails and expand them and do things with them. And then now this the second email reminder we're talking about, you can turn it on or off. You don't have to use it. It'll be off by default. Actually, when we send it out, just so that you don't accidentally start sending email, third ones out. You'll have to choose to turn it on. And then you can set the delay. So you can actually change how long you want to wait. In this case, the default is going to be 10 days. So imagine the first email feedback request goes out. 3 days later, the second goes out if they don't respond. Now, if they don't respond to that one, then 10 days later, this last one. And what's cool is you can make these all different. So you can change what they say, and I highly recommend that you do that. We're providing some default text in there for you, but these shouldn't all say the exact same thing, right? You should vary them a little bit so that it's more personal, and then people can understand what you're trying to do. Okay, Mark is saying he's got no audio. Can somebody confirm that you can hear me? Maybe that was a temporary glitch, or maybe it was only on Mark's end. I'd like to make sure that you guys can hear me. Yep. Okay, good. People can hear me. Thank you. Audio's back, Mark. Sorry, I'm catching up on these messages. Will we also be able to see this presentation afterwards via email of the doc? Yes, Michael, I will. We're going to make the recording available afterward, and I'm glad to make the presentation available too if you want it. Great. And then people are saying you can hear me. Great. Okay, so that's the email follow-up. I'm excited about this feature. I think it's going to increase everybody's, I know it will, based on our testing. It's going to increase the responses that you get, the number of feedback responses that you get from your customers. So that's always a good thing. All right. Next, another feature we've been working on that I'm excited about. This one is called showing the online review text. And what you're going to find is that in your online review monitor report, then let me just show you where that is. So that's the report where if you go in and you say you're logged into your customer dashboard and you go to reports, there's this online review monitor. It shows you how many reviews you have across the different sites. Well, this what we've added in here is get it. A lot of people have a lot of you have been asking for this, the whole text, like what, I want to see everything that, and in this case you're seeing all Yelp reviews, but it would be a mix of the different sites you're monitoring. So the Google would be in here and Facebook would be in here. We're also checking Zillow now by default for realtors, and Avo is coming soon for attorneys. But my point is you're going to see all the information in here, and then you can click right through to the review profile directly from here. So this is something that a lot of people have been asking for, to see more of, all in one place. How am I doing with my reviews? And I just didn't have enough data. This account that I was working with had lots of Yelp reviews recently, so you're only seeing Yelp, but normally it would be mixed in with different review sites here. So that's I'm excited about this. This is something that I think we can do more and more with to help you guys see what's going on. And in addition to this, if you go to your customer dashboard, one of the new features we've added is this ability to say, show me feedback requests resulting in clicks through to online review sites. So now you can see on here that in the status it says I've got new feedback and a review link was clicked. In addition to that, and so then what I've done here is I've gone up and filtered and said, just show me feedback requests resulting in clicks through to online review sites. So that's another sort of neat thing you can do to filter your customer dashboard and see what's going on. All right, any questions about this? Julian says, are you open to some specific non-agenda questions at the end? Yes, absolutely, Julian. Feel free to fire away when we're done. If you've got some questions that are off the agenda, absolutely. Glad to hear those. All right, what else? We're also showing the number of online review clicks on your business dashboard. So this is the business dashboard, which of course is different than the customer dashboard, right? This is my list of businesses that I have under my account. Now, some people might only have one business, that's fine, but if you have many businesses, you can use labels and you can sort and filter, and allows you to manage those businesses. What we're trying to do here is give you at a glance for each of these business locations to see how you're doing. So we have the Net Promoter Score, the number of feedback requests. Something we added recently was now we're showing the open rate on those feedback requests. This is 94%, but that's because this is a demo account that I use and I open most of the emails. But you should be getting close to 50% here. The number of feedback requests received, and then how many clicks through to the online review sites. And so we believe this gives you a nice flow of like, how is this business location doing with their feedback all the way through the system? Like what's their Net Promoter Score, and how many feedback requests were sent, how many of those were opened, how much feedback did we get back, how many online reviews did we get, and then what are our totals? So that's a new addition. This new column clicks through to the review sites that we know a lot of you have been interested in, and so that's in there now too. So a little bit of a pro tip. We always like to throw in a few things to the webinar about, just the whole customer feedback or that post-sale conversation in general. In this case, I just wanted to talk about optimizing your funnel a little bit to make sure and share with you some of the rates that we expect. So for feedback requests, right, this is when someone has come and bought something from your business location, or they've come in and interacted with you in some way, and the feedback request goes out. We're typically seeing something around a 45 to 50% open rate. And then the feedback we get back in terms of feedback left based on that is 14 to 15%. So if you send out 100 feedback requests, half of them would be open, and you'd get 14 or 15 chunks of feedback that you could use as testimonials, or you could use to identify if there was an issue and resolve it, but that content could go on your website as a testimonial in the testimonials widget. And then in terms of click-through to the online review sites, which we've now surfaced, I just showed you in those previous reports, you can start to really see that more clearly. Typically see a 4 to 5% of those click-throughs. That means somebody left you positive feedback. They came to your thank you page. You said, thank you so much. Would you please leave us a review on Google or Yelp or Facebook or whatever the sites are that you have listed there? And they actually clicked one of those buttons to go through, and they ended up on your review site for TripAdvisor or for Avvo or for Google, or Facebook. So that's what that means. So the point here is, if you're not seeing these kinds of rates, which you can see in that business dashboard very easily, right? If you're not seeing those kind of numbers, you might want to think about changing some things and optimizing a little bit. So that could mean changing the subject of your email for your feedback request that goes out. It could mean changing what's in the body. I know Mike has done a lot of experimenting with this. He has done a lot where he's experimented with sharing a little more detail about here's how we use the feedback. Here's what we're going to ask of you. And even though the emails get a little longer, we're finding people are noticing, that they're more likely to go through and actually click through, leave feedback and click through to a review site. And so the other thing we're finding too is that for a review site click through, if you have more than one option, you tend to get higher click-through rates. So for example, if you only have Google as an option on your positive feedback thank you page, you're going to get less click-throughs than if you had Google and Facebook, or Google and Facebook and TripAdvisor or something like that. So you're going to get more click-throughs if you have more than one option. And then Fred is asking, do you have stats on kiosk mode where the feedback request is instantaneous, not a separate email? Fred, that's a good question. We do report on how many people that left feedback through the kiosk mode, and we have some of that in the dashboard, but in the report, in the performance report. But yeah, you're right. We should give the full cycle on that. It's one of the things we're working on, is because now we're having more and more ways that people are getting feedback requests. So we have a lot of integrations now that people are using. So
John, this is Thomas. Hey everybody, this is Thomas of support. Many of you guys know me from emailing us at support@getfivestars.com. Fred, real like quick answer to your question. Here's the thing with kiosk mode. If we would track it, it would actually show as 100% feedback request success rate. Because here's the thing: imagine the service technician is out in the field, shows the customer the iPad, say, "Hey, would you leave a feedback?" If the customer declines right there on site, that's not something we can track because it would be a physical interaction with the customer. It's clients, we can't track it. Therefore, the kiosk mode actually has a 100% success rate because, yeah, we don't know if the customer in person tells you, no, I don't want to leave your review, and we would never hear that back from the service technician. So that makes it a little challenging reporting on kiosk mode and the feedback success rate, because it is really 100%. Because any
the
decline.
thing, though, that we do need to make sure to present is, how with kiosk mode, sure, you're leaving the feedback right then and there, but we're not asking for the online review at that time, right? So the flow is a little different. So basically what we need to do reporting on is to say, I think what Fred's after is, well, okay, how many of them clicked through from kiosk mode? Is it higher or lower? If they started in kiosk mode, and they get that follow-up email that says, hey, could you leave us a review on the online review sites? So that's the thing that we could report on.
Yeah, that's true. And I think Fred just confirmed that, and he just wrote it. Yeah, so he's not interested in actually he's interested in the online review conversion coming through kiosk.
Yeah.
So Fred, that's a valid point. That's something we can look into. I'm going to be fully transparent with you guys. That's tricky for. We will look into it. It's definitely challenging. Allow us to do some research, because the funnel is, again, these links that actually be displayed in the click through. We would have to flag those a little bit differently. But that's a very good idea, Fred. We'll research it. May not happen tomorrow morning because it's rather complex, because it funnels into our existing online review flow. But very good feedback. Thanks, Fred.
Yep, we'll definitely check that out. Very good. So One of the things I was mentioning about, we talked about having more than one review site target. We talked about some of the content in your email. We also have this ability, which has been in the product for a little while. We haven't talked about it though, and a lot of people didn't know it was there, and so I thought we'd bring it up. Um, and that is the ability to use tags in the feedback request email subject line. So you're probably familiar when you're customizing your email that we have tags for so many different things, like your business name and your customer's name and all this stuff that you can put into the body. But you can also put those into the subject, but you have to manually type them in. We don't have a chooser. So what you here in this case, I put customer first name in the subject line. And if you read about from some of the email service providers like Campaign Monitor or Aweber or a lot of the ones that do research like this, they'll tell you that the having the first name in the subject line tends to increase open rates. And so that's something you could look at as we do allow that. And you just have to put the tag in just exactly as I've shown it here. And if you do that, if you notice the subject line of this email, my first name is in there. So it says, Don, thank you for visiting us at Peach Trees. Or you could say, thank you for visiting us, Don. Or whatever you wanted to do, you can put that tag into that subject line. And then that um, personalizes it quite a bit. It gives you more. So that's one of the things you could experiment with. If your open rates, for example, were a little bit low, and you've got good customer, like first name, last name for all your customers in the system, you could consider doing something like that. And that should improve your open rates for emails. All right. Okay. So any other questions about that before we move on? Let me know. I see Julian is, and several other folks are saying, oh, I will use this. Good, good, good. Yeah, and we're going to continue doing testing on this stuff too and share stats with you as we go through and what we learn too. And the other thing is we I just want to mention from time to time we add features or we change the default template. For example, if you notice here, this would you leave us your feedback at the very beginning of the email, that's called the pre-header text. And we talked about that last month as a way to, that information will show up on mobile devices in the list of emails. And so as we make little changes like this and roll them in, we obviously don't flow those through to your emails because you might have already customized your email and we don't want to stomp on that. So make sure at these webinars, that's why we try to bring up and say, hey, you might want to think about doing this, right? Or this new feature that we found, because we're not going to change your templates and your defaults because we don't want to break anything that you've customized. But you could then take these ideas and go back and maybe tweak your templates for your emails too. Okay, so another thing we've been working on, which probably is fairly invisible to you guys, but we spent a lot of time on this. I just wanted to mention, we've got lots of new features coming. We've got big customers who are getting specific things. And so what we ended up doing is kind of backing up and creating this testing environment that's very modular. So we can spin up a development server and test out a certain feature and then have multiple of these going on at the same time. And then tear them down when we're done. And so anyway, this is more of an internal kind of behind the scenes thing, but I just thought I'd share it because it gives us the ability to move faster and develop and do better testing and things like that. So that's something we've been working on. Spent a lot of hours on getting this right. So from the geeky side of me wants to at least say that we did it and that we kind of had fun figuring that out and wanted to share that with you. The other thing I'd mention is we talked about our Zapier integration last month. Well, all we had were private links for if you wanted to try Zapier, you'd have to ask us and then we could send you a private invitation. Well, now we're in the global directory for Zapier, which I'm very excited about. So if you go to Zapier and you wanted to, have one of these apps trigger a feedback request and get 5 stars, then you could do that from almost any app. I mean, there are over 500 apps in there, everything from MailChimp to Google Sheets to Salesforce or QuickBooks Online or FreshBooks, or there's so many things. If you create an invoice in FreshBooks, it could automatically send out a feedback request and get 5 stars. You add somebody to your list in MailChimp, you can have them automatically added to your customer list and get 5 stars. So you can wire up these integrations with no code, and so it's kind of they really put us through the paces, man. I mean, they to get in that global directory, oh my gosh, we went through so many iterations, and I respect that because they're trying to make sure that their integrations work and that they are easy for people to understand how to set them up and configure them, which makes their service better. And so I totally get it. But we spent a bunch of time on this, and now we're in the beta. We're in the beta of the global directory, but we have to get a certain, show a certain amount of usage of this, and we have, all of you that were in the beta are doing it, and that's great. But I need, so if you were thinking about doing any integrations with Zapier and us, please do that because it'll just help our stats. We have to show a certain number of integrations, and then we're kind of like on a probation period in their global directories. You'll see beta next to our name. They just want to make sure that it works with a variety of other apps. I've submitted several shared zaps that are going to show up automatically, so you can just grab them. Like, so if you're using FreshBooks, for example, you can just grab this shared zap and boom, it's just all set up. You don't even have to barely configure it. So it's really slick the way they've done it. All I wanted to do is just mention that we are in the global directory now, available to anybody. Kind of excited about that. So if you have any interest, please give us a try on Zapier or let us know and we'll help you through it. It's not hard, and we can show you exactly how to set it up pretty fast. So, all right. Any other questions? I know some of you had questions along the way that Julian said, hey, non-agenda specific questions, no problem. What any questions that we can answer for you, or any specific feedback on some of these new features we talked about? I'd love to hear it. Let's see here. One of the questions coming in right now is on the tags. Let me just, oh darn it, let me show you these tags again. In fact, let me just give you a quick little demo of what I'm talking about. So bear with me for a second. There's some questions about how those tags work. So I'm going to go into my email templates. I'm just showing you my screen here because I want to show you how this works specifically. So if I go to settings, I'm in the customer dashboard, I go to settings, email templates, and then here I am looking at my feedback request email, the exact one I just showed you the screenshot. Now if I go into edit body, see these tags in here, customer first name, business name. Here's my link to leave feedback, the provide feedback link. So if I drop down this little guy, this lists all the tags that I can choose and insert into the body of my email. So the way it works in the subject line is you kind of have to pop in here and look at the ones and go, which one do I want? And I looked at it and I said, I want customer first name, right? And I grabbed that and I just basically, okay, and I set up data. And then I went up here and edited my subject and I added that tag in. Now I could put it at the end, I can put it in the middle, wherever I want, but I had to kind of go and see where that tag was first and then drop it in here. Because we don't allow the chooser up in the subject line, but usually it's not like you're adding a bunch of tags in here. It's just usually just going to be the first name, I think the only one. So the other thing about this too is as soon as you tab out of this field, it saves it. So you don't have to do anything there. Say update and preview, and then you've got it covered. It gives you a little green check mark saying, okay, I accepted your changes. So that's how it works there. Great. Let me back to the presentation. Julian says, we're getting some great feedback and I would like the stars to appear in the Google search results. How do I get the star rating to appear in the metadata? All right. So Julian, make sure I understand your question correctly. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to say, I think what you're asking is, how do I get these ratings to show up for my testimonials page for my from the testimonials widget, right? I think we do have a user. Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure I understood your question. Yep. So here's the deal. There are a couple of things you need to do, and maybe you're doing some of these. So forgive me if I'm, going into detail here. But your website. The first thing is you're going to want to make sure that you have a page on your website just for testimonials and reviews. So a specific page. Now this isn't a requirement, this is just more of a best practice. It's a good idea to have this because a lot of times people will type in business name reviews, business name testimonials, and then you want to have a page sort of dedicated to that. Here's the testimonials widget. You can see the responses that the business owner has made. And so this is the page that's showing up over here in these Google results with the stars next to it. And there's a couple things going on. One is they have a specific page on the site. Number two is that that site at least has some authority with Google that allows you to, that Google trusts it and believes in it. Our testimonials widget's automatically adding all the metadata that you need for these stars to show. But what I found is that if you created a brand new website or you just created your testimonials page, these ratings, these rich snippets here don't always show right away. The page has to have some authority in Google. Now Thomas just sent over, he's got a user guide post here that I'm loading. I did something wrong apparently. Yeah, here it is. 5 tips for getting your review stars to show in Google. And he'll post this in the chat window, but there are a few things you can do here to make sure that you're doing it right. And then if it's still not showing up, you might just have to wait a little bit, or you might have to make sure that website gets a little bit of domain authority. So Paul is asking, is there any way to tag feedback requests by some category? The category might be the salesperson's name or the type of service provided, for example. That way I could track customer sat by the sales provider or the type of service or product. Yes, Paul, that is an excellent question. As a matter of fact, that is a feature we're looking at right now. So the idea would be, what if you could tag all of your testimonials, and maybe it was for 2 different service areas or 2 different maybe doctors or something, or 2 realtors, or maybe more than 2, right? Maybe you had, or a product. The idea would be that you'd have multiple testimonials widgets, so I could tag each of these feedback inside of the system, and then I'd say, just show me the testimonials for this doctor, right? And then would only show those ones. And then on another page of the website, you could show all of the testimonials that were tagged in a different way. So we are working on that. It's on our roadmap, and it's a feature that we're getting asked for a lot. So it's definitely going to happen, Paul. It's a good, very good, you hit it right on the head. I mean, that's something that we know we want to do. It's going to be great for SEO because you can have multiple of these widgets on your website in different areas of the website that show different testimonials on it automatically. So thanks, Paul, for the vote on that feature. Definitely on the roadmap in the next 2 months, 2 to 3 months is when I'm looking at that in the roadmap. So we're actively defining that right now and working on it. It's a relatively big feature, though. That's why I'm saying I'm giving myself a little bit of time on it, because there are a lot of things we need to think through. For example, in the testimonials widgets, you need to be able to create, instead of just, hey, where's my testimonials widget? Where's my badge? Like you do today. You need to be able to create filtered filtered testimonials widgets. Thomas is saying that for now you can do that. You can achieve the same thing with multiple locations, and so this is a user guide post that he's put together, how you can actually achieve something very similar just by using different locations. So if this is like a super urgent need for you, we've got some workarounds for you that will get you there until the tagging becomes available. So hopefully that answers your question, Paul. Yep, I see that in your comments that it did. Aaron brought up, though, he said site authority and page authority are factors. Okay, so we're going back to this page. How do I get the rich snippets for my testimonials page? And Aaron, sorry, Aaron is on our team actually, but he's in there as a visitor, so I didn't have time to switch him over to organizer before the webinar. He's saying that site authority and page authority are factors on why these rich snippets show up. Specifically, you want inbound links to the page you're displaying the widget on. So what he's saying is you got to have some links coming into this testimonials page. If you're not getting the rich snippets showing up, you might need to build some quality links into there. And this really is up to Google's algorithm. So this is not a given that you're automatically going to get those things. It's more about Google making a decision. Can I trust this website? Is it really about this business? And that's really their algorithm. All we're doing is sharing some best practices for what we've seen to be effective in this case. So great. Okay. Well, yeah, so that's a lot of new features. I'm glad to hear you guys are looking forward to some of these. I know you asked about some others. We've got a lot of cool stuff in the works right now. Just full speed ahead on these things. But anyway, I appreciate you guys taking some time today to be in the webinar. And I hope that you'll keep the feedback coming in, not just at the webinar, anytime. Just reach out to us at support@getfivestars.com. We all see these things. We all look at your questions and comments, and we love to hear from you. So please do that. And in the meantime, before the next webinar, and we'll be back again next month to show you what else we got going on. So thanks again for your time today, everybody, and we will talk to you soon.